On this episode of ResiWeek, nationwide adds Google, the voice guide for 2020, and Vantage wins a CTA award. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 207. Get your hardware right.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks and by Middle Atlantic. What great systems are built on.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt T. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my longstanding friends. Joe Whitaker, he is the CEO of Thoughtful Integrations. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Glad to be back on the show.
Thank you for being here. And we have Tim Albright. He is the founder of AVNation. He's filling in for the tardy Stephen Bronner, who is getting called out again for, being tardy. So Tim is filling in. How are you, Tim?
Be nice to Stephen.
I did. I just said he was tardy.
He may not be tardy. You don't know.
He's tardy. Well, he's tardy right now. He's
right.
Quite late. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Clocks run slower down there.
They do.
Oh, I hope he hears that. 3. So let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro. Google Nest has inked an exclusive deal with Nationwide HTNS. If you don't know who Nationwide is, they are a large marketing group. It's essentially a large buying group with that offers marketing, business support, etc. for independent appliance, electronic, furniture, and bedding retailers. The HTNS portion is their division that serves the custom installation market. Joe, I want to start with you on this one. Google has had a Pro Tail, which is their kind of like integrator version of retail, if you will, program in the past. This one supposedly goes a little bit beyond that. Is this kind of one of the first steps of these kind of big corporations, these big companies that kind of flirt with our market? Is this the first step of them really accepting us, wanting to work with us closer? Ring announced that they've got a Pro new, it's a soft announcement last week that they've got a new Pro Division E thing coming. Is this where that's headed?
Well, it's funny. I'm supposed to talk to Andrew about the Ring stuff here later today, but this is one of those, to me, it's like our show gets a hashtag today, and it's hashtag get your hardware right. Because, I look at an article like this and what they're talking about, and in the article it mentions Hank, Hank Alexander. A lot of us know him from the URC days for blah, blah, blah. Thank you, by the way, Hank, for giving us a like on Facebook for our news coverage this morning. You're awesome. But when it comes to Google and the Nationwide relationship, I don't think I have dealt with Nationwide since some big event they had in Dallas when they announced they were going to carry washers and dryers and sofas. This is one of those, is it a move in the right direction? HTSN, that segment part of it is a move in the right direction. However, when you're taking some kind of consumer product and trying to go from prosumer to professional, your buying group has to be right and your hardware's got to be right. So we're going to take the voice hardware and the door station hardware that, not to say it could change in the future, but currently has the worst integration in our market compared to all the others. Josh AI being the number one most integratable, Alexa next, and then the list goes on and on. And then you go to, a buying group, which in the last 5 years has almost fell out of the top 5. This isn't Azione. This isn't ProSource. This is Nationwide, which grew out of DSI, which was a satellite distributor down in Texas. If they could pull it off, it could be good. But I think it's the wrong mix to really push it. Hank is fully capable of doing it. Giving him anything, he's fully capable of doing it. But with what you have handed in your lap, it's a hard battle. Most integrators don't embrace the Google Home stuff as it is.
Yeah, that's the kind of the tough side of it. Tim, when you see this, because Nationwide is such a diverse buying group, it's not the traditional ones that we think about in this channel, because it adds the appliance stores, the bedding stores, all this other riffraff, if you will, when it comes to the purpose of this conversation. Is that going to be a hindrance when your home technology specialists of Nationwide have access to this, but so does Bob's appliance store right beside you?
Will it
Sorry,
be
Bob.
yeah, well, it won't be a hindrance. It'll be a hindrance to the commercial the residential integrators, the custom integrators, because Bob's Electronics and Bob's appliance store will have access to the exact same things you will. It'll be incumbent on guys like you and Joe and Bronner and everybody else to differentiate yourself. But it's one more thing you guys have stacked against you. Add to that, Amazon and their marketplace, and I love the Amazon products, but they also have a marketplace in which case, and where you can hire somebody to come hang and bang your display that you just bought from Amazon, right? Not saying you guys want that business, and we've had long conversations about the value of doing hang and bangs, but this gives you an opportunity to differentiate yourself, as long as you take it and you don't see it as, well, Bob's Appliance can sell Nest now, I should just get out of this business and go do something else.
Speaking of all the fun aspects of Google being voice, let's transition to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. It is the 2020 Guide to Voice Technology. In this article, Jordan covers a couple of things, specifically the various platforms that are out there. He highlights Alexa, Google Assistant, Siri, who still has a voice assistant, it seems, Bixby, as well as, of course, Josh AI, which is primarily just for the home and not normally considered from the consumer standpoint as a standard voice system. It is definitely the specialty product. Tim, I want to come back to you on this one. The first problem I had with this story, or maybe the question I had, was I don't ever hear anyone talk about anything other than Alexa and Google. Is there any point to really be bringing Bixby and honestly Siri into the conversation?
Well, you bring Siri in because it's Apple, right? And Apple, regardless of who they are and regardless of how stumbly the Apple smart speaker came out of the gate, it's still Apple. And it's still one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and they will eventually get voice right in the home, eventually. I look at competition in general as saying, I will never say that Facebook is the last biggest social media. It's not, right? If you look at the trends, it's trending downward. Now, it's still number one, but eventually somebody will take it over, right? Amazon and Google are currently number one and number two when it comes to voice. Somebody will eventually take it over. So no, I mean, everybody should go out and try to out innovate the innovators. I think when you talk with dealers and you talk with folks who are putting this in people's homes and in their conference rooms, you have to take a look at Google and Amazon as your number one and number two. Then you can have other conversations about whether or not let's pick on Josh AI for a second, whether or not something like Josh AI makes sense in a home. Why would you pick Josh AI? Well, there are reasons for that, and they have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. Why would you pick Amazon or Google, or Amazon over Google? You look at the strengths and weaknesses of each product, and you say, you know what, for this customer, it makes a whole lot of sense. And so, no, I don't think that you dismiss anybody who's out there trying to innovate, but you certainly have to look at the market leaders and recommend to your clients, look, this is who's currently the most popular. That means that they're going to have the best offerings, the biggest offerings, and the biggest partnerships with things outside of their ecosystem.
Very good. Joey, I kind of want you to crystal ball this for me for a minute. Given what Tim said, I still don't see Apple making a push anytime soon. I don't see Bixby making a push anytime soon. Josh AI is fantastic, but again, it's a very small market segment outside of our channel right now. I don't mean any disrespect from that, but if you get be on the channel, no one really knows it exists. So what is the future? What does 2020 hold for voice? Is it going to continue to chug along at the same speed, or is it going to start to roll off? Because that's the impression that I get is most people buy them, they use them for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then all of a sudden they use them like I do in my house to check the weather and nothing else.
It's funny. I love articles from Residential Tech Today because they pick on some of those subjects that some people teeter around. They're giving you a real good breakdown of all the different, well, not all, but kind of the top voice platforms out there. But I can't believe you forgot, Amazon is the only one with an audio output. Come on, everybody give it the times. But that's part of the big point of this article that I keep going back to is I think I actually told a client recently that the Amazon Echo devices were the Roku of voice control because you have okay voice commands. You have some audio outs. You got some touchscreens working with some doorbells. If you played with the auto version yet, you've got Google Maps integration. So they're playing with Google. Then you look at Google's platform. Their strength is their, query-based search algorithm backed by all their massive amount of data. And then you just got Apple over there for fanboys. And then and Bixby. So Bixby, I think what happened with Bixby is that Charlie Kindle left that camp, went over to Amazon, created this, and then they just dusted off of some of his old notes before he bailed to go work on Alexa. So it's one of those, everybody is trying to play catch up. And we're just kind of chugging through as this grows. Do I think it's going to fall off? No, I think in our house it gets used constantly. Music, timers, directions, the recipes, the list goes on and on and on, change the channels. But I think something is going to just effectively happen this year that is going to change the way with casual users like you, Matt. You just use it for a couple things. Something is going to happen within 2020 that is dynamically going to change the way you use it in the home. Whether it be a feature set that comes out, a new natural speech recognition platform or algorithm, something is going to fundamentally change the way you use it because each one of the platforms have their strengths. Josh, it's control. It's all about control, privacy, and security. Something is going to happen with one of those guys that it's going to knock that over. It's going to teeter everybody from just asking for what's the temperature or what time it is it, or to real use.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's go to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Hidden Wires. Vantage's human-centric lighting system wins a CTA award. If you are unaware of what HCL, their human-centric lighting is, it is a fantastic system that allows you to adjust not only the brightness, but the color temperature of that lighting system and change that across the board to suit not only your preferences, but also do fun things like time of day and things like that so that you can emulate either a specific time to fit your schedule, or you can have your your indoor lighting reflect the outdoor lighting. Joe, I want to come back to you on this. First of all, I think it's amazing that they were able to win an award from CTA. Their product is fantastic. The question I have and have continued to have for about the last 2 years as HCL continues to be talked about within the channel is, and maybe I'm just continually looking forward right now because it's the first month of the decade, to all the people who think the decade starts next year. It's this year.
It starts this year.
Yeah, it starts this year. Because we're looking at all that, and it's maybe got me thinking of that. Does this have mainstream legs, or is this going to be stuck in just the purgatory that can be our channel, where it's overly technical, highly expensive, and you're not going to see it except in the ultra luxury markets?
That's a common Vantage question, because you're talking about some of the you go back in time, you look at Vantage, you look at some of the other brands that were like that, Light Touch, which they were physically and visually designed specifically for the ultra high end luxury market, right? So you see something like this, and moves like this, because I don't know if it's released, I won't say any names, but another big home automation company just acquired a pretty consumer-friendly lighting control company within the last 2 days. This movement is happening, and so you got Vantage, and the ACL stuff, and then the other people that are going along that trend, like Lutron, like what Savant is doing. We're in the middle of a big hedging bets area right now for lighting, because nobody can consistently figure out what the cost is going to be, what the cost to consumer is going to be, how the control is going to be, to race to have it in every home instead of only the ultra luxury. The Vantage thing, though, is intriguing to me, because there's some on cue lighting control out there. I can't remember the name of the platform. I've used some of it. It's actually pretty cool, but it's based at the consumer. I mean, you're talking like dimmers and switches for $40, and $50. So they've dipped their toes already into that. Everyone can have lighting control. Everyone can have this. So now they're going to dip those toes in. And you know what? Honestly, some of the other stuff they're doing, I think it could be a mass market play. However, it's going to be that cost key, because you look at, the Ketra stuff and some of the other stuff that's out there right now. I mean, some of these you're talking $250 to $500 a can, or, your standard integrator style dimmers with their prices of over $200. Could Vantage play it that way? Right now, honestly, if anybody could, it would be them, because of who owns Vantage. You got money to spend and break a market. I think it would have to be them.
So, Tim, given what Joe just said, the Vantage has let's say the pockets to get in there and potentially break out the lighting system. We just saw GE announced their new lighting control system that one of our friends is working on, and it's starting at, I believe, $40, $45 a dimmer with no neutral, which in our world is kind of the holy grail.
And brilliantly patented. Oh my God,
very
genius.
Much so. But specifically, they've made it so that, yes, lighting control can reach the masses. Unfortunately, we're not just talking about lighting control here. We're talking about all the essentially DMX aspects of lighting where we can modify it. I know for a fact that my company has sold the warm dim LED systems.
Yep.
That, again, you can buy them at Home Depot, but as you slide that dimmer down, it goes from 5,000 Kelvin down to 3,000 Kelvin. Most of our clients hate it. They just don't care. Does any of this, given what Joe said, that Vantage might have the pockets to break it and bring this at an affordable price, are people, the general populace, or even our general customers, are they going to buy a $45 LED funky lighting system or control piece? Or are they just going to go pick up the $20 dimmer from Home Depot?
So you asked a couple different questions there. So let me kind of go through that.
One or two or five.
Let's start with your customers. Your customers are gonna buy what you suggest to them. That's why they're your customers. And the question then reverts to, are you going to buy it? No, you're not going to buy it. You might have a relationship with Vantage. You might have a relationship with Lutron. You pick your lighting company, right? Crestron, whoever. You guys know those products, and man, I've known you long enough that you're a huge fan of Lutron. You know it like the back of your hand. You can create some pretty arts, works of art with lighting systems with some of these systems. your customers are going to rely on you. That's why they're your customers. And so the really question is whether or not you guys can get into it. And I think Vantage does, to Joe's point, they do have the pockets. They're owned by Legrand, one of the biggest publicly traded companies, especially in our space, publicly traded in Europe. It's a French company, but they do have it. And they've got a lot of commercial engineering power as well with some of the acquisitions they've made over the last 2 to 3 years. So yeah, they could very much make a play. That's for the custom integration market, CI market, the CD market. Now, mass adoption and the folks that are going to Lowe's and Home Depot here in the States, no, they've never heard of Vantage by and large, right? They've heard of Vantage because they have a buddy that works at Thoughtful Integrations, right? And he mentioned the fact that they do Vantage and they do Lutron and stuff like that. That's where they've heard it from. They know GE though, right? And you mentioned our buddy Paul, who's been doing some really interesting things over the last couple of years. They know GE. There's already mind share there. There was already a market saturation there. That's really the ones you got to watch, is the folks that they want some of these biophilia effects in their home. They want their home to be warm. They want to have daylight harvesting. They want to feel, that the lights above them are reflecting where the sun is in the sky. And if they can do that for 20 or 30 or 40 bucks with a GE product, because they know GE and they trust GE because they've been doing power and lighting for over 100 years, they're going to do that over buying something that they've never heard of that may happen to be on the shelves of Lowe's.
Yeah.
Well, can I add to that?
Yeah.
I got because when Tim was talking, he really got me thinking. So you talk about the money behind it and the ability to bring manufacturing costs, distribution costs, and all that down. Legrand took Luxel to now being the most affordable, stable network in the CI industry. They took Nuvo down to Sonos prices. They took QMotion, although, everyone knows there were some issues when they moved that to Canada, but they took QMotion's prices down to less than Lutron, slightly above 100 Douglas. So they've made that before. But then when you say, you've got a good point, everybody knows GE, everybody knows Lutron, but man, Legrand is good with branding. You go into a Home Depot, in that electrical section, there's more on-cue SKUs of either Lutron, maybe tied with GE. There's more physical SKUs of on-cue in a Home Depot than there is Lutron.
So,
But yeah.
So Joe and I are both in St. Louis. And Joe is over next to a shopping area called Westport Plaza. I would bet you $100, Joe, that if we walked over to Westport Plaza with a clipboard, you and me, and we asked 100 people if you've heard of GE, Lutron, or OnQ, or even other Legrand products.
Hold on.
I would bet you the vast majority would say GE.
Hold on. Let me
first. Yeah.
Let me jump into this for a second though. You have to specify what you're asking them about, because I got a GE washer.
I'm just talking brand recognition.
Brand recognition,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes, brand recognition. But I don't know, and again, I'm in Canada, so it might be different. But if I walk into our Home Depot or our Lowe's or anything else, I don't know if they have a GE product on the shelf. They have Lutron, they have Legrand. I don't know if we have a GE.
You've got breakers. You've got GE breakers.
Yeah, we got GE breakers, but I don't think we have a GE dimmer. We might have a
Yet.
sub-branded GE dimmer.
Yet.
Of course. It's an interesting conversation.
But I do think that's why GE's play was so good. Just like you guys, shout out to Paul Williams, miss you, buddy. He took all that knowledge that he gained over at Control 4 and really spun that up very well at GE. And I think a lot of companies like Vantage and some others are seeing that writing on the wall. They really are. When you had new combatants like Noon and all these other guys coming out with this really cool stuff.
Let me throw one thing to you, and this is something that Matt and I, and I think Joe, you were there too, when Mitch Klein a couple of years ago, Mitch from Z-Wave Alliance, and Mitch has been in the CI segment for, good Lord,
since I was in diapers, right?
That was not that quite long ago. But he was the first person who made the statement to me that the whole do it with you market, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about here, in my opinion, is we're talking about folks who are comfortable enough going to a home renovation or a hardware store and possibly taking a look and possibly purchasing things of their own volition, but calling up Matt and calling up Joe and saying, hey, look, I've got these things. I want some lighting. I trust these brands. That's why I bought them, but I need your help to put it in. So I think it's also an opportunity here to kind of educate your clients and separate yourself from the purchase, but absolutely get the money and use your expertise to help your client, but also, create another revenue stream for your companies.
Well, and that's where this conversation does take that turn of, we started out talking about human-centric lighting and the award that Vantage won. None of that is going to be available in Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever in the foreseeable future. It's A, too expensive. They won't stock it. It's B, a little complicated, notwithstanding, no disrespect again. But C, it's a different clientele. The clientele that are looking for that are not the same ones that are going in to Home Depot and looking at, a Wemo switch or a, Caseta switch. Those are two different things. It doesn't mean that do it for me isn't there.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
No and yes.
Lighting control itself wasn't in Home Depot 5 years ago. Somebody's going to have to be that first to market.
They had X10 boxes.
Yeah, but you bought that like on Dale. Did they have that at Home Depot?
Tim,
I know. It was an X10 joke. It was an old.
Yes, I mean you might have been able to get it off the. I don't even think there was internet.
I thought it was Radio Shack.
It was Radio Shack. It was Radio Shack. You're right. But somebody is going to have to be that first to break consumer market for retail. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm going to venture out on a limb and say that they're probably good. They're tied for second with the first that are going to make a shot at it. It'll either be them or Lutron. One of the two is going to be the first to bring it to retail consumer platform.
It'll be very interesting to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I love the concept of human-centric. I love the concept of DMX lighting control. I love things like Ketra and this Vantage system.
But it's going to be just like insulin. Until a doctor says that it does something, nobody's going to believe it. So some doctors got to write a big study that said this guy, these two twin brothers that lived exactly the same, this one lived 10 years longer because he had better lighting in his house.
And that's the whole, that's the other debate with human-centric lighting and any of the wellness stuff is it's not something that today I would ever recommend anybody sell off of necessarily, especially not the medical aspect. But if you want to start selling it from a, cool factor, an ease of use factor, sure, you can get there.
Because don't get me wrong.
The medical.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm the biophilia movement. If it comes along the way I think it will, I'm a huge fan. But right now, I get more biophilia just opening my shades and looking outside and getting that light. There's a big window right there. This feels amazing. I don't think you can do anything with lights to. So if you live in a Manhattan high rise.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it there. Before we go, I do want to give a quick plug or a mention, I guess, at least. The CEDIA AV Awards, their awards program is now open for entry, and it's got a brand new system process to go through to do it, as well as a bunch of new categories. Joe, you and I actually did can we say that we did a lot of work on this?
Technically, yes. And I will say,
I can probably say that. You can't anymore.
Well, I will say that it has been streamlined and made easy enough that this will be the first time I've entered for an award in over a decade.
That's fantastic. So definitely go check that out. That is a big deal and can help put your integration firm.
That should be the tagline. Easy enough Joe can do it.
And everybody do it and you won't win.
Fair enough.
So go visit cediawards.org, or you can just visit cedia.net to get that information. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us and picking up the ball where Stephen Bronner dropped it. Joe, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Thoughtful Integrations, check out your interviews from today when you were on the local news, where can they do that?
They can always email me directly, joe@thoughtfulintegrations.com. Follow us on Facebook at Thoughtful Integrations, and on Twitter at Thoughtful, or what are we on Twitter? I don't even know. Integrator Tweets. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I think we're using Instagram too. I don't know. But yeah, and other than that, you can always find me at some CD event.
So call the office and ask Sarah where to follow Joe on the interwebs. Tim, thank you so much for filling in for Steven. If people want to connect with you, learn more about AVNation and the Blues these days, maybe?
Yes.
Are they still playing hockey?
They are still playing hockey.
Ooh.
Actually, the cup ended up at the Thoughtful Integrations when the Blues won last summer. Just want to point that out there. So,
did you get an invite to that?
I did not get an.
Huh?
No, you did get an invite, but you had to go out of town. You did get an invite. It was in the middle of InfoCom.
I actually, CEDIA has awards. We have awards. This is the last 10 days. By the time this post, the final round of the annual AVNation Reader's Choice Awards. So you can go by our website and check that out. So, and
did you tell me I would have entered for an award in that?
You probably could have actually. There's one.
Yeah, he could have. We can't. Which is why you'll notice that we don't endorse anyone for that as much as I've wanted to trash talk a couple of people that are doing well. I can't, and that's why my vote as a service is not available today. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us. This has been a entertaining show. We'll go with that. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social channel. But more importantly, please visit avnation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek. You ready? This is ResiWeek episode 207. Darn, I moved my sheet. Sorry.
Darn, I moved my sheet.
That would be awesome.